Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Khoj Gurbani. Our subject today is the 8th stanza of Jup Bani, which goes as under: Sunay Siddh Peer Surnath, Sunay Tarat Daval Akas, Sunay Deep Lo Patal, Sunay Po Na Sakay Kal, Nanak Bhakta Sada Vigas, Sunay Dukh Pap Ka Nas. Now, Pauris 8 through 11 are devoted to the concept of sunay, which usually translates into by hearing or by listening. The problem, both of these translations are problematic because they are suggesting the act of ordinary hearing or listening. And this compels the obvious question: are we not hearing or listening already? Or why would Guru Nanak devote a tenth of the Jup Bani to emphasize what seems to be an involuntary and self-evident activity? So I think we should look at Gurbani for a clue and a pointer. And the fact is that we do get a hint. Gurbani is telling us that in Sunay, it is not simply ordinary hearing, which is passive, inattentive, and shrouded by our own mental chatter, filtering out most of what is heard. We hear what is agreeable, and only that which serves our habitual patterns. So what Gurbani is suggesting is that in Sunay, a higher principle is at work than just ordinary hearing or listening. There is a passage from Mahalla Duja on page 139, which goes, Akhi bajon vekhana, vin kanna sunana. I won't read the whole passage, but the suggestion here, the pointer here is that it points to a seeing without eyes and a listening without ears. So it is in this context that we should understand sunay, the listening or the hearing or the process should be understood to be the Guru and the Guru's word, Shabad, as a process. So we have to view this not only as a process, but also as a practice, a continuum, if you will, that starts with the Guru's instruction, which a Sikh must hear and listen to, progressing to the Guru's word, with which a Sikh must communicate in order to reach the goal. And the goal has been expressed here in these panktis, the last two panktis, Nanak Bhakta Sada Vigas, Sunay Dukh Pap Ka Nas. So the goal here has been identified as Sada Vigas, which translated means to be in a state of perpetual bloom. Now, this is obviously referring to a state of consciousness, and this state of consciousness belongs to Bhagats, Nanak Bhakta Sada Vigas. Bhagats are devotees, if you will, or lovers of the divine, also called Gurmukhs, and these are the ones who are attuned to Hukam through this process. So in Sikh parlance, this state of existence has also been referred to as Anand, or Sada Basant, forever spring or flowering. And access to such a state is available only through the Guru. Why? Because the Guru possesses the key to the way. As Bani says, meeting the Guru, one is taught the way. Liberation is found while living in this world, in laughter, in play, in wearing, and in eating. Now let's look at the lines one by one very quickly. Sunay Siddh Peer Surnath. Since we have chosen to call this a practice, we've translated it to read, practitioners of Sabad become spiritually adept, spiritually enabled, and achieve self-realization to become truth-oriented. Satyara. Notice here that Sunay has been contrasted to Siddh, Peer, Sur, Nath. These are all appellations for yogis or different sects of yogis, people who were involved in yogic practices in order to achieve spiritual perfection. What Guruji is saying here is either one of two things, that you can only get that perfection through the process of Sunay, or that the Siddh and the Pir and the Sur and the Nath yogis are actually not in, their methods are not in accordance with Hukam. Sunay Tarat Taval Akas. Again, practitioners of Shabad are made privy to the law, Hukam, that holds the earth, the sky, and everything in between. Now, this does not mean that they've suddenly become scientists and know exactly how the earth and the sky work. Rather, this is saying that in them arises this awareness, this intuition that makes them feel the presence of this hukam behind the movement of the earth, the sky. And as the third pankti says, Sunay Deep Lopatal, it's the same process at work that says that through the practice of Shabad, through listening, through assimilating, through living the Shabad, comes this awareness of the truth, the hukum that governs this process. Again, as I said, you don't become experts of various disciplines, but you do develop an intuition. And intuition is probably the most perfect knowledge that you can have. And then Guruji goes on to say, Sunay poh na sake kal. With the practice of Shabad, the fear of death is overcome. Now again, here is another pointed reference to the yogis mentioned in the first line. Their focus was always to defy death through physical and psychological practices, an aim that flies in the face of Guru Nanak's hukum, which teaches acceptance, among other things. Guruji concludes by saying, Nanak bhakta sada vigas, sunay dukh pap ka nas. Says Nanak, the one who practices the discipline of Shabad remains forever in bloom. The practice of Shabad gives us release from sorrow and sin. As we go down Pauris 9, 10 and 11, we will see that a lot of these thoughts around Sunay filter into the next Pauris, and there is a great deal to really think about in terms of Sunay, and we will try and get this message clarified to the best of our ability as we go through these four pauris. With that said, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, and we will see you tomorrow with pauri number 9.